Where will this path of strife take him?
Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kyle, and I'm an animator. Today, I wanted to dig into a question. How do you animate a character to show an indulgence of a darker power, when they also fit into an already existing, positively oriented archetype? To explore that, we'll go over none other than the great demon himself, Akuma. Akuma is a dark side oriented version of the series' protagonist, Ryu. He's obsessed with harnessing the power of the Satsui No Hado, which is essentially the dark side in the Street Fighter world. His style is very much about absolutely dominating his opponents with his oppressive power. Even though he uses these dark powers, he's not without morals, and he still abides by the code of the warrior, like Ryu. Both of these characters fight to improve their power and defeat worthy opponents. Akuma is generally an aggravating character to fight against. A lot of this is due to his gameplay design, but it also comes through in his animations and overall character. He is more than happy to use his powers to humiliate those he faces. To go over this, we'll look at Ryu and Akuma, see how they're similar and both respect that warrior's code and thirst for training and improvement, but also show how Akuma can always go that one step further, indulging himself in that dark power. Let's start with their normal attacks. Generally, their normal attacks both have a vibe of a well-trained warrior. Akuma doesn't do anything crazy out there for these attacks. They feel very much in line with Ryu. He has a few moves that show a bit more aggression and a desire for dominating the opponent, like this combo where he stomps on the opponent's head from standing. Having their normal attacks be similar helps establish a baseline for Akuma that he's a solid fighter just like Ryu. It also shows that he's not consistently wielding this dark power in just about everything he does. He chooses his moments to really unleash it and harness it. This lets it feel really special when he does do something more dramatic. Let's move on to their special moves. Specials similar to normal attacks have 3 main levels of strength to them, and one above that's called an overdrive special, which is the strongest and costs some resources. For the fireball special, there are a few differences in their details, like Akuma bringing 2 small orbs of energy together instead of the one that Ryu creates. The main difference though is when they use their strength to power them up. For Ryu, he actually has to use a separate special move called Denjin Charge. He takes a moment to focus his energy and allows his next fireball to be stronger, having an extra hit. This shows that Ryu has the energy within him, but he needs to deliberately charge it. Akuma, on the other hand, can charge any of his fireballs whenever he wants. He also chooses to do it within the special move itself and not have to do it beforehand. This is also the first instance we'll go over of Akuma containing and using the power of fire. While Street Fighter characters are no stranger to flames, mainly in Ken Masters, another character of the same archetype, Akuma's flames in particular feel much more dangerous. They're dripping with burning hot magma. They look like they completely burn your hand away, but Akuma does it without a flinch. The dangerous visuals help reinforce the strength needed to wield them. Akuma's uppercut, or Dragon Punch, is pretty much the same as Ryu's. Again, similar to his normals, it doesn't have a ton of difference on the light and medium versions. On the heavy, we see a trail of the darker energy following behind the motion. This is different to Ryu, but doesn't actually show anything overly sinister or desire for dominance. However, for his overdrive special, Akuma meets his opponent in the air, his eyes glow red, and he delivers an absolutely devastating smack back down to the ground. This is a display of power. Akuma is trying to humiliate his opponent. For Akuma's whirlwind kick, or Tatsu, again, there isn't a ton of change here in the light and medium versions. It has some different properties and hits, but his heavy is where things really start to change. For his heavy Tatsu, he actually breaks the traditional carry along the ground and takes the opponent up into the air before kicking them back down to the ground. This isn't quite as brutal as the Dragon Punch, but it's more of a display of power than Ryu's heavy Tatsu, where he stays on the ground and just passes through the opponent. For the overdrive version of the Tatsu, Akuma leaves the opponent launched into the air for a follow-up attack, and if he does it in the air, he still kicks his opponent back down to the ground similar to the heavy version, but to add insult to injury, he bounces them off the ground so he can continue attacking. This serves the gameplay function, of course, of allowing you to continue your combo at the cost of some resources, but it does so while letting some of that evil energy out. For both characters' backward special, Ryu has a move called Hashogeki and Akuma has a move called Adamant Flame. Both characters have this special move where they briefly step back to build up some energy and send it forward. Ryu does a sort of short-range version of his fireball that stays close to him to disable his opponent. When you do the overdrive version of this, it actually crumples the opponent right in front of him. It's like an immediate state of paralysis. For Akuma, however, he again has 2 sources of energy in his hands. His attacking fist sets on fire briefly before the hit connects. It has a cool detail where the front hand stays in the purple energy until the back hand passes it, almost like it ignites it on the way forward. This is significant because Akuma can follow up this hit with another one, again to add a bit of insult to injury, and he unleashes the flames in the other hand. His overdrive version of the move actually sends the opponent reeling all the way back to the wall no matter where they are on the screen. It's much more brutal than Ryu's version of this move. On the more cinematic side, there are a few small details in their windscreens and their taunts I wanted to talk about. For the windscreens, both characters have a windscreen of walking away from their opponent. They've just come out victorious from the battle and they want to move on. Ryu does this with confidence. He takes a deep breath, resets himself after the battle before continuing on. Akuma, on the other hand, has this extra beat at the start where he checks to make sure his opponent is truly defeated. He isn't about to just walk away without knowing for sure who came out on top. It's not a huge gesture by any means, but it does help reinforce Akuma's character being a bit more dominant. For their character taunts, Ryu and Akuma have two taunts that are pretty similar, but with Akuma having his own evil flair to it. For their first taunts, they both raise their arms up and have a tight push downwards to release some energy. Ryu does this in a much more grounded way. Akuma, however, actually has a ton of dark energy around him as he does this, that he then shrugs off. This shows that he's in full control of it. Another taunt is them stepping up and slamming their foot down in a fighting stance. Again, Ryu does this in a grounded way without any energy, whereas Akuma has the energy and even the kanji behind him flares up when he does this. Again, showing he's got that dark energy under his control. Now let's talk about supers. Both characters' level 2 supers are actions where they build up energy and send it forth to their opponent, a more amplified version of the backwards special we went over earlier, but there are a couple cool details in these. For Ryu, it's a straightforward gathering of the energy in front of him, pulling it back, and then sending it forward. He can also hold the button down for more power. One thing I love about this is these little after images of him that appear as he moves forward for the hit. It's a cool way to help sell the speed of him pushing forward. So how does Akuma put his own evil flair on this move? He starts very similar to Ryu, gathering energy in front of him into a single ball. However, once it's gathered, instead of just pulling it back and sending it forward, he strikes it with his hands to set them ablaze, like he's smashing pieces of flint together. This immediately gives the version a much more dangerous energy with the flames compared to Ryu. He then strikes his opponent with one of his hands aflame, but after the impact, you can see the energy actually flowing into the opponent like they're a bomb about to explode. He then pulls back his other arm and gathers all the fiery energy into it. A few frames before he lets go, you can see all the tendrils of flames are gone, and they're all in his hand now. He smashes it into the opponent, and the 2 points of fire build up and explode out of their back. This also causes them to tumble back into the wall, which allows follow-up attacks to occur. This is much more aggressive and much more of a display of power than Ryu's version of his level 2. Now, one of if not my favorite super arts in the entire game is Akuma's Raging Demon. This move is the peak of Akuma's power, throwing everything he has at his opponent to defeat them. In past iterations, the aggressive attacks Akuma does to his opponent are only implied and not really shown. Akuma dashes towards them, with the screen going to a flat white or black, and only seeing flashes of the hits, eventually leading to Akuma standing over his defeated opponent. In Street Fighter 6, we're seeing the full force of what was going on in that quick flash. One of the things I love the most here is in a match, you generally want to use this move on your opponent when you trip them up. You get them to take an action and you catch them with this super. The very first thing we see is the opponent taking a full swing at Akuma and him passing right through them. This is the immediate moment where they know it's over for them. This really helps support the gameplay because ideally, you just took the action to get your opponent to swing at you in the first place, and the cinematic supports it. This is where we see Akuma split up into many different versions of himself. Each take their turn at brutally beating down on the opponent. Each one feels bone-crunchingly powerful. I mean, look at the pose on his foot in this one. His foot just judo chopped this person's neck. After each of the strong poses you see land, he then just barrages the rest of the army onto them to finish the job. He stands over the opponent, satisfied with his victory. It's an awesome animation from start to finish. It is a very cool progression of power and ferocity. I also love that his peak power move still harkens back to his diligent martial arts training. There are more mystical aspects of this, like him turning into 1,000 versions of himself, but when he comes down on the opponent, he's using his martial arts to defeat them. He's not blowing them up with powerful flames, he's using pure brute strength. And that keeps this super feeling like a great mix between his darker powers and his hard training. In Street Fighter 6, I feel Akuma is truly at his visual peak. His new design feels more distinct than the previous iterations, and his animations and effects truly help sell the character being deep into the Satsui No Hado. I love all the little flares of purple energy, flames, and even the blood-red eyes and trails on them when he does certain moves. Akuma was easily the most requested character on my first video, so who would you like to see next? Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.